Hello everyone. Yes, this is me, Zach Wanzer, speaking to you directly on camera, because the topic in this video is extremely serious, and it may be uncomfortable for some. Rest assured, there will be no joking throughout the discussion. As I'm sure many of you will know by now, Richard Jordan, better known to the Thomas community as Scarlovi123, was arrested back in April 2025 for sexual exploitation of minors and peeping. It wasn't until May 16th that Thomas fans heard about it on Twitter, and they exploded into a frenzy of shock, betrayal, and disgust. I've been a subscriber of his channel for years, and to hear about this criminal behavior from Richard, yeah, I unsubscribed right then and there. This is a man who had a happy life, a promising career ahead of him, and a lot of viewers who looked up to him and even adapted many of his works for YouTube. And for no reason at all, he decides to throw it all away for sick, disturbing reasons. Now let's make one thing absolutely clear. Richard Jordan is not an isolated case. He's not the only Thomas user to be exposed for predatory behavior, and what scares me is that he won't be the last. Back in January 2018, Zachary Kays, also known as Toon Critic Y2K, was exposed as a predator, and many people in the Brony fandom ostracized him altogether. Of course, before My Little Pony, Toon Critic was also a Thomas stan. And since Toon Critic's downfall, we've had several fandom members exiled for predatory behavior. To name but a few, Z Mark Anthony, Tom K, Flute Girl 2406, and Brendan Rees. If there are any other examples you can think of, please let me know in the comments. However, one user who has also said and done some creepy things is Kiefer Adams. The situation involving him blew up on Twitter for a bit, but just as quickly it faded away, allowing him to keep a YouTube career going, regardless of whether or not the victim got an apology. With all that being said, this exposes something that many in the Thomas community are afraid to talk about, or at least they don't want to address. This fandom has a predator problem. Now I'm going to slowly repeat that in case I mispronounced anything. This fandom has a predator problem. And no, we're not being paranoid about this. This problem has been getting worse since 2018. But the question I want to raise is, why haven't we been doing more to prevent this? To be more specific, why aren't more exposés being posted on YouTube? When Toon Critic was exposed, many videos were posted condemning his behavior, and even as late as April 2025, people are still talking negatively about him. And over the past week, as of this recording, Richard Jordan has been given widespread condemnation, with users such as NWR1991 privating videos adapting his works or deleting them altogether. Now you'll notice that I just listed Toon Critic and Richard Jordan. I looked it up on YouTube, and I haven't found a single video calling out Flute Girl 2406 or Z Mark Anthony for their behavior, and although the Brendan Rees fallout was fairly recent, there wasn't a single call-out video then either. Most of the calling out happens on Twitter, and it seems as though it just disappears into nothingness. And again, I must raise the question as to why people aren't doing the same thing on YouTube. Just posting about it in a community post on your channel isn't enough. And while we're on the topic of YouTube, I also want to bring up that a certain controversial user in the fandom, whom I shall not be naming here, made a video about the situation with the title, "Haha, Scarlovi123 arrested, Thomas fans disgust me," which is insidious enough. But what is discussed in said video makes a complete mockery of the situation at hand. At no point is there any regard for the victim's feelings and well-being. It's all just shameless attacks on the fandom as a whole, and it gets to a point where he says Richard should be stoned to death. Not even making this up. I'm not gonna lie, I've had my share of issues with the Thomas fandom in the past, but outright using your hatred for them to gain clicks out of a serious situation is a line I would never cross, especially if it involves children being hurt in some capacity. This situation is not a joke. And if you're an adult who enjoys the media aimed at children, remember this. Predatory behavior towards children goes against everything that Thomas the Tank Engine stood for over the past 80 years. Wilbur Audrey told the first stories to his then 2-year-old son while he was sick in bed. To commit such actions spits in the face of Audrey, who wrote a further 25 books to entertain not just children, but the parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, and so on who had to read these stories over and over again. It also spits in the face of Britt Allcroft, who sacrificed so much to bring these stories to life on our television screens. It is genuinely heartbreaking that a franchise that teaches kids so much about friendship and acceptance could have a fandom that's plagued with some of the worst kinds of people both on and off the internet. Doubly so when they don't take the lessons of Thomas to heart. With all that being said, for the love of God, please don't harass the poster of said video in question. Seriously, the fandom is already strife with conflict as it is, and the last thing we need is to add more fuel to the fire. It will likely embolden him to double down and continue with his bad behavior. People like him do not deserve our attention, no matter how badly they want it. Our priority right now is to make sure that those affected by this terrible, terrible situation are able to heal and move on. But of course, they're never going to forget what happened. So in conclusion, what can we do moving forward? Well, one of the first steps we can take is to keep calling out predatory behavior the moment it's discovered, and let everyone know about what said person has done before more people, especially children, get hurt. We cannot ignore this issue any longer. It's time to let these predators know that they are not welcome in the Thomas community, nor any online community, period. The adult Thomas fanbase gets a negative rap because of the likes of Toon Critic and Richard Jordan, but we can do more to let outsiders know that they are the exception and not the rule. Or at least, we have to try. Because if our collective efforts can save even one person from getting hurt, it's worth it. Don't bother bringing up anything Richard Jordan created in the past. This is not a matter of separating the art from the artist. This is a matter of actual human beings, his family and former work colleagues, getting hurt by a sick person's predatory actions. That is what really matters more than anything related to Thomas right now. I'm Zach Wanzer, and please remember to take care of yourselves and others around you. Thank you for listening.